sandwich with milk for dinner.
I respect that.
That's good. Healthy.
All right, let's do this thing. Let go. All right. Welcome, everyone. What?
Wait.
I was going to be like, aren't you going to do your silly intro?
Screenfish. Now, welcome, everyone. We're so glad you could join us for a new podcast series that we are running, and it is called Movies You Missed. For the next 7 weeks, we are going to throw 2 different films into the ring together of different genres and different eras to see which film comes out on top. We have 2 great teams of people. I'm your host, Steve Norton, and from our generation, I am thrilled to have Catherine be a part of this as well. And for the younger generation, Riley, Daniel, and JT, thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm really glad that we could do this together. It's going to be a lot of fun. The way this is going to work is really, really simple. For the next 7 weeks, we are going to have different genres of films. Catherine and I have picked one that meant something to us growing up. Riley, JT, and Daniel have picked something that has meant to them, that meant something to them as they've grown up. So we could not pick anything post 2000. They picked nothing before 2000 in the dates of release. The rules were simple. Catherine and I had to pick films that none of the 3 of them had seen. They had to pick a film which at least one of us had not seen. Because, quite frankly, it was a little easier for us to see the films that they saw because we existed. This week, for our first episode, we thought we'd kick it off with a bang. We are throwing up the action blockbuster, and our pick this week is Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive in 1993. Going way back with that one. But Daniel, let's hear about yours. What is it? Let's start with you. What is your pick for the movie that we missed?
Okay, so the movie that we decided to go with is Hitman's Bodyguard. Ryan Reynolds plays a protection agent who is tasked with protecting Samuel L. Jackson's character, who is one of the world's most famous assassins. Basically, they have to set aside their differences to tackle several dangerous events and scenarios that pop up in order to get Samuel L. Jackson to the trial of the ruler, I guess, of Belarus. And Samuel L. Jackson's character is the only witness. I have a lot to do.
It's a busy day.
Yep, busy. What was it? 4 hours, 5 hours they had.
Not total. The movie
the last day.
The last 4 hours lasted 2 hours of the movie. So
yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of what happens in the movie. So I guess to start us off, geriatrics. How did you feel about the movie? What did you like? Did you like it?
We're going with that name, are we?
Oh,
we're the geriatrics.
Yeah.
Oh. That stings. That stings.
It'll be a new old people term every week.
Why I oughta?
Get off my lawn, you kids.
Next week it'll be geezers.
Oh, hurts. Kat,
As the youngest of the geezers.
I like. Oh.
I still have 1 foot in your generation.
And the other foot in the grave. And that's.
You're right. All right. Well, I like to live dangerously. For me, I had seen this movie previously in theaters with Daniel, who doesn't remember, but whatever. If you put Ryan Reynolds in it, you can pretty much get my money out of me. So I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was actiony. It was a little bloody. I wasn't a fan of all the ketchup packets exploding all over the place, but I enjoyed it because Samuel L. Jackson is a great actor and is also taken from our time because we had him first. And Salma Hayek is always good. What?
We had him first, but he didn't do a whole lot.
I don't care. He was saving it up.
He was Green Lantern.
Yeah. Oh.
Samuel L. Jackson.
Wait, not Samuel L. Jackson was not Green Lantern. I just thought it was a fun action comedy and not too bad to look at. So, I mean, thumbs up for me.
The movie or Ryan Reynolds?
Both.
Yeah,
not as good as Fugitive. Sorry, not as good as Fugitive. Would have had a better storyline, but I'll just leave that for later.
Catherine's already getting defensive. Yeah, you know what? I actually enjoyed it a lot more. This was my first time watching it. I had not seen it, so it fit under the rules. I know the sequel's coming out. I am not in love with Ryan Reynolds, although it is funny that the world is, so it's not hard to sort of get it right now. I think Deadpool woke me up to his talent, but there was like 10 years before where I felt like they were sort of forcing Ryan Reynolds to be a megastar, and he just wasn't going to do it. But after Deadpool, he's done a lot of good stuff, and I do think that he and Jackson had some good banter. I do have a mild fondness for Selma Hayek, even though she was in prison like 90% of this movie. It was a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie. It was a lot of fun. I thought the action scenes were good. It was funny. I don't know, Kat, this is going to sound geriatric. I'm asking you, do you find that action movies seem to move faster than they did?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely they do. And it's because back in the day, as
say
in
that here, you can say
yeah. Listen, you smug young people, back in my day. Such as with the filming of The Fugitive, they didn't have as great of a CGI stunt and like production crew, right? Like, so they had to go slower. They had to really focus in on the story. And now it's more like you're looking for the next big blockbuster. So what's going to explode more? What's going to be more dangerous, more ridiculous in the sense of like how far you can get away with stuff, not ridiculous as the movie was. But it's absolutely faster. And I mean, not to sound geriatric, but I feel like there are some action movies where like storyline is very critical in today's movies, but I feel like the storyline back in 1993s to 2000s was really, you had to have a good storyline. You had to have those twists and turns and plot trails that lead you everywhere, and the whodunit to kind of, I guess, make up for the lack of ability to have explosions. I mean, this is coming from a girl who likes Transformers because there's so much explosion. And I mean, they're Transformers. But yeah, definitely it's slower with our movies, but I think cooler on a different level. More cerebral, one might say.
You know what's ironic is I would say the same thing, and all I keep thinking about is the movie Speed, which is the one I wanted us to be able to pick. And if you look at Speed,
yes.
now, Speed's a great film. Like, it works, but comparatively slow to even this movie. And I don't mean in terms of like the story or it's a one-note plot, but just the way that it's shot. Like, you look at action movies back in the day, and I feel like there was a lot more time taken just in how they're shot, like this one. Now, I will say that I was impressed. There are a couple of fight scenes in this that really let the fight scenes be fight scenes. I think it was the Bourne movies that made everything have to be quick cuts. After that, everything is quick cut. And there were a couple here where Ryan Reynolds is fighting those guys in the wood shop or whatever it is, and there were long takes, and I thought that was pretty impressive. But this movie gets by in the charm of its stars. It was fun. It was a fun movie. I liked it. JT is here, by the way. He is not the New York City style or skyline. He is there.
He is New York.
He is New York. Jason is New York. From the three of you, what is it about this movie that is so important to you? Why did you pick this one as the movie we had to see, the movie we missed?
Can I be honest?
Jason doesn't even like it. No,
I have never watched this movie before.
You cheated on the first one?
I don't even think I agreed in the group chat that I wanted to see this, but we could not find anything, and then all the good ones, we all like you've seen before, so it's like, what can we pick?
Wow, all our audience just tuned out right now. No.
Yeah.
Well,
it's an okay movie.
I'm glad you like it.
What did you?
Better. Like the fight scenes were good. I was like just waiting for the next fight scene. The story was pretty bad, but that's okay. You don't watch it for the story.
See, I do. I want a story. Sorry, I'm interrupting.
But even from the trailer, I was like, oh, you just want to see the next fight scene. Like you just want the punching, is what I feel when I saw the trailer. So yeah, that's my take.
Jason's going to call this podcast Movies I Miss.
Movies I didn't know I agreed to watch.
Did you guys have a reason to pick Riley and Daniel, or were you just kind of like, we need an action movie?
So for me, I have seen this movie probably 5 or 6 times before seeing this. Not for any like particularly like deep meaning or anything, but just for the fact that this was just a movie that I would put on like when I was sick, and I just loved it because it's like sort of what Jason was saying. It's like you just sort of move on from fight scene to fight scene. And although you guys were like harping on that in kind of a way, I don't know, I just kind of really liked it. And also like Samuel L. Jackson and Ryan Reynolds characters, like the interactions between them have to be probably some of my favorite parts of the movie, especially seeing it like after like the initial time of watching it and just like watching it for the next fight scene. Like some of the interactions they have are just so funny to me.
They are.
Yeah. And Samuel L. Jackson's wife, I'm forgetting the actress's name. Yeah. She is hysterical, especially in this film. And like, yes, she was in jail the entire time. And that was kind of like the point for Samuel L. Jackson's character Kincaid to like do all of this. But even just in jail, like you start out meeting her when she has like a fellow prisoner trapped in her room for whatever reason. And then at the end of that scene is just her beating the phone box with the phone because the line got disconnected. And I don't know, it's just so like, I want to say kind of like dumb humor that I just love it. So yeah, that's why I picked it. I just love this movie. I've seen it so many times.
Like when they met at the bar and you see her like, that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the humor, it's just, I don't know. It's just dumb and I like it.
Daniel.
And I mean, Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan
Reynolds.
So I also did not watch this movie before tonight.
What is happening?
Oh my god.
You watched it in the theater.
He gave me.
I had my eyes closed the whole time.
Oh yeah, okay.
No, I'm kidding. I've
Okay.
seen this
Okay.
movie.
None of us watched it.
It's so important.
We just needed something to be picked.
We picked something that Steve had.
No, I seen this movie. I seen it in theaters. I completely forgot that I seen it in theaters with Kat. But no, I seen it in theaters, and I've probably watched it 1 or 2 times outside of theaters. I know, just like first going to see it in theaters, like there wasn't really a specific reason, like that we went to see it. I think we were honestly just kind of like, why don't we just go watch a movie today? What's in theaters right now? And that had like the best time and obviously a great cast. But no, I actually I like the storyline that it has. I do also like the action scenes and the comedy. But I feel like I have to give it to them. They have a pretty good storyline, and they have some like pretty good topics that they kind of talk about, even though they don't go like fully into depth with a lot of them. It's the ones that they bring up and do have their little chats about kind of like left me thinking, which I think is always a great thing for any movie, but especially one that you wouldn't think would give you any of that. Like it's a dumb comedy like action movie. You think you're just going in for explosions and punches and fart jokes, but you come out thinking, what type of fart was that?
What? Those are the things that stay with you after the credits.
Yeah, it lingers.
I think that one was a fear fart.
But no, I liked the movie. It was just kind of one that, we thought of because it was, what can we throw out that Steve and Kat or one of them haven't seen, but we have, although I guess we all haven't, but that's okay.
Rocky first start,
But, yeah, this one doesn't have like a big like childhood nostalgic like memory for me or anything, but it's definitely one that if people were like, oh, what's an action movie that you would definitely recommend, what do you think's really good, this would be one that would first come to mind.
I can see that for sure.
Sorry, just something that Daniel said, I remembered when he was saying it. Some of the things that Samuel L. Jackson's character said, like about like life and like the morality, just like they sort of slipped it in between these scenes. And like I'm remembering now, like after like the first time or second time that I watched it, I came out and I think I actually like asked my mom about like one of the questions, because it was actually something that like Daniel was saying, you wouldn't expect to see there and you wouldn't expect to walk away thinking about.
Yeah,
there's that point actually. Yeah.
There's that conversation they have where Sam Jackson talks about, or who is more responsible for being the bad guy, the one who kills the bad guys or the one who protects them or something like that. It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I like that you're on first name basis with Samuel L. Jackson. Sam said.
Sam Jackson.
Sam J.
Good old Sammy J.
An old friend of mine.
Old is right.
He's old.
Boom, boom.
He is one of the youngest old people I think I see in Hollywood. Like, I honestly don't know how old he is. I think he's about 75 or 78.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not
around
kidding.
Your age.
Oh, right. I'm only 3 years older than you, so drag me down.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. Hey, who's the one?
Change the batteries in your hearing aids, Kat. Come on. We're recording.
I would definitely give this movie like a watch. It was super fun and they were hilarious and there was lots of explosions. And I do enjoy that quick fight to fight scene too, because it keeps you interested, right? At least the younger generation, we can, follow a storyline and grow and pay attention. But the kids these days, they need bam, bam, bam. Just kidding.
Daniel has pointed out that he is 72, so apologies
72.
to Sam Jackson.
Wow.
It does not look 72. Good old SJ. Not a day over 40.
I will say I didn't think the story was that great. I thought the story was, but I did think it fit into a very natural, like, its own genre, the buddy comedy genre. Like it fits in with the Lethal Weapon movies of the 80s and early 90s and stuff like that.
Turner
like,
and Hooch. Mm-hmm.
Turner, that's a man and a dog, so it's a little
but it's a buddy cop movie and it's funny.
Marley and Me, yeah.
Oh,
this is taking a turn. But I mean, they had good banter. They had good rapport with one another. It was fun.
Success, except for JT. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he liked it.
No, I know.
Hmm.
It was hard for you guys to come up with ones we haven't seen because I watched so
You're
many.
old. You've seen all of them.
No, it's actually a fair
Had
comment.
the time.
That's a fair comment because the movies we've picked
Seniors'
are
nights.
Seniors nights. We get the discount. No, the movies we've picked are ones that you wouldn't have seen because you weren't alive, probably. But these ones, are often in the theater when we go. So
Yeah, I was alive for most of your picks.
I'm actually surprised with how many you guys threw out that, like, I'm personally, like, I've seen.
I was shocked too, actually.
I think maybe before we quickly jump over to start talking about the oldies pick, I kind of want to ask pretty much exactly what like Samuel L. Jackson asked. Like, what do you think is worse, killing bad people or protecting bad people?
My gut instinct would be to say protecting bad people.
Yeah,
Like you are who you hang out with.
Yeah, and I feel like that question is like almost like I don't know the word I'm looking for, but kind of like guiding you to pick protect, which like because like everyone knows that like killing people is wrong, but like also they're bad people, right? So like it's sort of guiding you to be like the ones who protect the ones who have done bad are worse than the people who like punish them, which objectively could be true.
yeah, like I was thinking about that after he asked it, and I would say that it's a difference in values. Like I would say the killing the bad people is like Old Testament justice, like that's the idea is like, well, they deserved it because they were bad. Whereas the opposite approach of protecting them, it's not necessarily justifying what they did under the circumstances. Like the guy's job is to make sure they get from one place to another. And he's just trying to stop people from killing them. So it's like almost like seeing them as valuable too. I don't know. I think you're right, Riley. I think the question is setting you up to side with the guy who says, well, obviously it's the protection that's worse. I still think killing the bad people is worse. But
what if you're aiding and abetting the bad people to continue doing what they're doing? You know what I mean? By protecting them. Well, he's protecting them so they can go from place to place. He never knew their business. He didn't know what they were doing. He made sure not to. But in a sense, you could be aiding and abetting.
What's worse, killing Hitler or protecting Hitler?
Why you gotta do that?
Protecting Hitler.
But if you kill Hitler, doesn't that make you Hitler?
Oh.
What?
But what if you went back in time
Because he
and killed
killed
baby
himself.
Hitler?
But then you would have never went back in time to kill him in the first place.
I'd like to
Maybe
point
you
out
should
this
go
is going
back.
on the internet.
Far enough that you kill baby Hitler and then nothing ever starts.
So
You're killing a
So then you just killed a baby, like
second.
Who knew he was going to be Hitler?
No one else did.
Go watch Looper. It's the same.
Be like, trust me, this guy, bad baby.
Guy's a bad guy. Get him.
Just because, like, we were talking about that conversation where Samuel raised that question. One thing that I really liked about that scene was actually Ryan Reynolds' character's response to that, and the fact that, like, you know, Samuel was obviously trying to like gripe on his job, right, and trying to be like, I am in the right here, regardless of what you think. And was sort of poking and prodding at him and trying to figure out, like, trying to get Ryan Reynolds' character to like admit that. And I really liked how Ryan Reynolds, like his character said at the end, I don't decide whether they live or die. Right. And sort of this fact that, like, regardless of what he's doing, he is not making the decision to take someone off the planet. Which was the big difference between Kincaid and him, and the fact that, like, sure, they're both dealing with bad people. You know, Kincaid is being hired by someone who is trying to get someone killed, and Ryan Reynolds' character is being hired to protect said bad person, right? But at the end of the day, he's not deciding whether he's to end someone's life or not.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect that answer because, I mean, the whole argument about aiding and abetting, but he's not committing the acts. I don't think either one is great. But if you're going to throw them up against each other and say which one is the better choice, I would still side with the one who isn't killing people, personally. Like on purpose. Like obviously he kills people that try and kill the person he's trying to protect, but he's not hunting.
Yeah.
It's more of a defense. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
And I think that even just goes to show with the fact that, like, the one person that he lost was just because Kincaid happened to see him and just decided to, right? Whereas it's not like, it's not like he's just going around and being like, oh, there's a bad person, I guess I'll just protect them. Versus what Kincaid is doing, where he's like, oh, there's someone I can kill, might as well, right?
It's true. And it really spoke to kind of pushing Ryan Reynolds' characters out of, I guess, needing constant control in life, because he's very much like, all through the movie, you see that SJ's character just kind of jumps into things, where Reynolds' character is like very, it has to be like this, or it doesn't work out and I just dip. Where, I mean, the bad guy even had more emotional intelligence than he did. So.
Yeah, and then old Sammy boy just like has that like whole conversation about with a very bad metaphor about how you just sort of got to take what life gives you, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Interesting talks throughout that whole movie.
I'd like to point out that I got roasted for calling him Sam Jackson, and we're at SJ and Sammy Boy.
Oh no, this is us mocking you.
Yeah, no. We're making fun of you, Stephen.
Oh, my mistake.
No.
Oh,
Get with the program.
I would like to say this: the film dropped the ball by not having any reference other than like a phone call line throwaway to Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You." They had more than enough opportunity to throw it in as part of the soundtrack. Samuel L. Jackson could have sang it in the car. And I would.
It could have played carrying him out of a building.
They should have been carrying. I thought he was going to carry him after he got shot with a bullet. I thought he was going to carry him out of the building. They blew it. This movie sucks. No.
Wait. Why was she in the movie? Why?
I forget. Again, the
Explain it, geriatric.
millennial children. Here in the golden old.
Hey, do not compare me to millennials.
I'm sure they know
Careful
the
with that
Bodyguard
word.
movie.
You must know The Bodyguard. Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston. No? No?
No.
Oh, that movie was huge, and it had and that "I Will Always Love You" was #1 on the Billboard charts for like 17 weeks. Like, it was a ridiculous. It was like #1 soundtrack forever. And it was essentially the same plot. Like I heard that they were basing this on that. He's a by the books bodyguard hired to protect this massive pop singer, and they fall in love. And it's just called The Bodyguard. Kevin Costner, Whitney Houston in 1994, I think.
I remember seeing the music videos, but I was too young to go to the movie.
Right.
But I remember seeing it on the music video.
It'll be on Netflix or something. And
yeah,
classic. Anyway, this movie.
Like, I know the song.
Oh yeah.
Does that count? I know the song.
Good enough.
Counts.
I'll take it.
You're geriatric now, Riley.
Who would stay?
Listen, I wasn't even born till almost 10 years after that movie came out.
It's true.
All right, moving on.
Yeah, going back to my question, I think, like, personally, when I heard him, ask that question, I kind of feel like the answers kind of depend on if you're thinking for yourself or for others. Because if you're thinking what's worse for me would be killing the bad guy, like knowing that I killed someone, I would assume would probably be like, kind of traumatic, I guess, depending on who you are, if you're a psychopath or not. But if you are protecting a bad guy, then that's kind of worse for others, because if there's somebody who is a ruler of a country and they're going to go and, execute all the people, then by protecting them, you're just making, the others' lives worse.
Yeah, I was sort of imagining that with horror, is how, like, what would happen if, like, Ryan Reynolds' character, like, he protects, like, whoever, like one of his clients, and then when, like, the next week he hears, like, in the news report that, like, the place that he, like, drove him to or whatever, he just went through and, like, shot up the whole place.
Exactly. Yeah. But I guess if you put the moral compass of actually having to feel things after killing someone, that would be pretty difficult.
Yeah.
I love that you put in provided you have a moral compass.
I was thinking Imagination Land, okay?
Yeah, so I think probably overall protecting, like, a bad person is worse, because you could be harming so many more people, and then eventually, because you know that you harmed so many more people, it'll just put that guilt back towards you, which will then harm you as well. Whereas if you end up just killing a bad person, all that it's going to affect is that person and probably their, like, squad or whatever, which, like, who cares about them? Like, they're bad people as well. But yeah.
Wow,
so
way to bring the realness.
We all just tear up, have background music, just kind of sad.
It's "I Will Always Love You" with the raindrops on the window.
And gray filter. But yeah, so that's I guess our kind of brief talk about Hitmans. Steve, what was the movie that ye old people wanted us to watch?
All right, the movie you missed from us this week is The Fugitive. Released in 1993 and starring Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford, The Fugitive tells the story of Dr. Richard Kimball, who is falsely charged with killing his wife. When Deputy Marshal Samuel Gerard pursues him after he escapes from prison, Richard realizes he cannot trust anybody. It is a classic Harrison Ford film during his peak era, and we would love from the geriatric side, hearing what you babies have to say about The Fugitive. What did you think of it?
This is the part where JT flips it and says that he actually did see this movie and doesn't remember agreeing.
Flips the script.
No, I have never seen this movie, but of course, it's The Fugitive. I had heard of it, and I knew like the scenes, the diving scene off of the dam. I knew the like end scene where he goes into the ballroom and like confronts the other doctor about changing the samples, but I had never seen it. And I liked it, like I did. Granted, I am more used to films that are, like you were saying, faster paced, higher level of like CGI and stuff. I know I was making fun of that one pole hitting scene because it was just so ridiculous how it happened, and the one person getting punched and just almost dying on the spot.
What about that train scene though?
I mean,
that train scene is
no, but like beyond that, beyond like like being able to take my mind out of the fact of like this movie is not going to be like the ones that I've grown up with, that I'm used to, right? It is a good film, and like and granted, it is a way better storyline and makes a lot more sense than The Hitman's Bodyguard. I really liked it, actually, I will say.
What about the rest of you? Daniel, JT?
I thought it was really good. I feel like it had more of a story than The Hitman's Bodyguard. And then there was like some mystery with it too. Like, where's this plot going? Who's the actual villain? What's happening? Is he actually crazy? Like, there's all these themes and stuff going on with it. And you didn't really know where it was going. And then also, they did a lot of good work for like the time too. Like that train scene, it's pretty good. Like it looked like a real train. I don't know what their CGI levels were back then, but it looked like a really good scene. And then, but it was also a very different movie as well. Like it wasn't like comedy based, especially compared to Hitman's Bodyguard. But yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, it's worth. Oh, go ahead.
I would say it like that's a film you could watch now and still enjoy. Like it holds with time.
That was my big thing that I thought too. As one of the older people, I'm like, I feel like you could still watch this now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not to say that, and when we get a chance to speak, we can talk about this stuff too. But it's not that all movies are represented just like The Fugitive of this era. Like there were lots of movies that had the humor and all this stuff that we see in The Hitman's Bodyguard. There were lots and lots of action comedies like that at the time. But this one was a little different in that regard. So it's interesting to hold them up against each other. Daniel, what about you? From the Crib.
Yeah, I really liked The Fugitive as well. I think I'd kind of mentioned this before we watched it, but I had heard about the story that it was, I guess, kind of the first part of the movie was based on just recently. And I like that they used a real like true crime case, but still made it their own. I think that they did a really good job, kind of tying it together. And I think being from the 90s, like, I don't think they really needed a lot of CGI. Like, if they had CGI tech, yeah, they could have added, explosions here and there. But I feel like this movie didn't need that if it could have done it. I think The Fugitive has a better storyline and plot than Hitman's Bodyguard, but I think visually, Hitman's Bodyguard kind of looks better because it's newer and has those, you know, explosions and it's, you know, kind of fast paced. But personally, I kind of like the more suspenseful, psychological sort of movies. I know Kat can definitely vouch for that. You know, my favorite types of movies are like psychological thrillers, ones where you really have to think and you're trying to figure out, you know, like who done it and stuff like that. So The Fugitive was definitely a movie where, you know, the whole time I was watching it, I was really into it, the whole thing. Whereas like Hitman's Bodyguard, like I'm gonna be honest, watching it now, like I jumped to my phone and was like, you know, kind of playing a quick game on my phone every now and then because I was kind of like, meh, like, you know, I know that they're just fighting, they're punching, you know, that's happening. But I feel like The Fugitive really kind of grabs a hold of you and really says like, hey, you know, you're going to be trying to figure it out as well. So I really like it. I agree. I think it holds up to like nowadays standard. And it's definitely one that I would recommend.
You know, it would be interesting to see this. In some ways, it'd be interesting to see it hold up against a film like Patriot Games, which is another Harrison Ford. I think it came out the year before this. Patriot Games it's a Jack Ryan. I mean, there's a Jack Ryan series now with Jim from The Office, John Krasinski in it, but that was one of those Jack Ryan films, and that is a much more actiony action film. Like in some ways, like you've got them driving down the streets, missile launchers, and that. There's a lot of similarities in some ways with the set pieces between Patriot Games and Hitman's Bodyguard. Now that I've seen them both, which would be another interesting one that for you guys to see if you want to see one that is a little closer in terms of style. But it is very political in some ways, but it's the action feels more like Hitman's Bodyguard. But you're right. This is a very different film. Yeah.
So I think it was a great movie. I'd love to hear from you guys why The Fugitive? Like, why is this one the one that really stuck with you and you wanted to show us?
Kat, you want to go first?
No.
Rude. To be honest, I'd never seen the movie.
Me neither. No.
I love The Fugitive in this sense. The only reason why I feel like it was really super important to me was that like you, I'm really into like the suspense and the whodunits of things. But I think it held the best over time for me. Like I could watch it. I watched it back then. I enjoyed it. And I felt like I could enjoy it again now, where I feel like there are a lot of movies from the 90s that just wouldn't translate the same. But I definitely think it's one of those movies. Like I really like The Usual Suspects, where it's just like, it's not a fast movie, but it's a slow build up and there's always these twists and turns. And I figured you guys could appreciate that. It's funny you say that, like, maybe it's my geriatric attention span, but it's funny that you say that you were more looking at your phone during Hitman's Bodyguard because you knew it was just fighting, where I was more using my phone during The Fugitive. But maybe that's because I kind of already knew what was going to happen. But I can see how it would get a little bit slower paced for people now, but I'm glad that the storyline, like the actual story, holds true and continues on. Because to be honest, you guys know I'm a really big genre. Like I love all genres. So I really like that fast paced fighting as well. But yeah, if it comes down to it, I just felt like The Fugitive, great movie. Pop culture has referenced it all the way through till now. And it was something that would stand the test of time to be able to show you guys. And I think it worked and we won. Game over. We win.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I agree with everything she said. I think it held up really, really well. I will say, watching it this time on the other side of things like Me Too and the Black Lives Matter and all that stuff, there's some things where I thought that would be written differently today. There are no strong female characters. The only African American characters are people he saves. It was like, oh, that's interesting. I stinking love, though, Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford in this movie. And Tommy Lee Jones, he won the Oscar for it. He is so much fun. I mean, it's a different type of funny. Like, it's not really a comedy in the same way. But oh man, he's so good. I think Kat was saying when we watched it, it's so infinitely quotable. This film is infinitely quotable, and they're almost all Tommy Lee Jones lines. Like, it's just so
I nearly peed myself at the shut up. Like,
it's so good.
He just like shot this poor lady's like boyfriend or whatever, maybe brother, I don't know. She's crying and he just tells her to shut up.
Oh, I love that scene though. Don't bargain. It's so good. But I just think that this, like, the action genre in the 80s and the 90s, I mean, that's where the money and the bread and butter and the money was, right? Like, there were superhero films, but they didn't control the world like they do now. And I think none of the picks we have superheroes in them, but you'd get one a year, maybe two, if you and sometimes you would get one every like 2 years or 3 years, or only one that's notable a few a decade in the decade. Like, it was really, really small compared to the world we live in now. And I think that the script works, and I like the fact that Kat said that it still works. That to me is one I think is really important. I think no matter what age the film is, the writing has to be good. Like, people wouldn't go see Marvel movies if there was nothing. There was nothing but explosions. Explosions are fun, but after a while, you've seen them all. And I should point out, it's not that we didn't have CGI growing up.
No, we just didn't have good CGI.
We didn't have good CGI, but we had special effects, and especially, like, this is the time of Jurassic Park. This is just a couple years before Independence Day. Like,
Independence Day was a big one for CGI. That's when CGI really started.
It was. I think that's on our list. I'm very excited about that. But like, for the films had to feel more grounded. So, like, that train scene, I think, is spectacular, because now it would just all be CGI, and you can tell. I think that's why now when you hear people promoting a movie 6 months before it comes out, they're saying things like, we used as many practical effects as we can, because there's something magical about those practical effects. Like the story of Jaws.
Man.
Incredible. It's an incredible story. And they almost didn't get the movie made because they couldn't get the shark to work. Like, so there's something extra, there's like an extra kick. But I think this particular film comes down to me between the cast. And I will say, and I said this before with you guys, there were times, it's different now because the way that the years and blockbusters all come out, like, you used to be able to chart the time of year based on what actor was coming out with a film. And Harrison Ford always came out with a movie in June, maybe the end of May. It was a summer. He was a summer guy. Sometimes
I'm trying to think the whole time you're talking about like how often these movies came out and everything. And nowadays it's like the summer blockbuster, and there's like 5 summer blockbusters that come out. But like, were there summer blockbusters back then?
Oh gosh, yes. Absolutely. But
I am still quite young, so my memory.
don't play young with me. No, absolutely. Jaws was the first real summer blockbuster.
Okay, yeah.
But then there would be like one big hit a year until the 90s, and then there might be like 4 in the summer, and the rest would just
all the American Pie movies.
Yeah, those were pretty massive. But like, you could almost clock them. Like, Will Smith was always in July.
True. Yeah.
Now with Netflix and all this stuff, everything comes out all the time, and they just sort of keep throwing things at you. But it was different, the scheduling. Harrison Ford was one of the most bankable actors in Hollywood for about 15 years. And this was easily, I think, one of his most interesting movies. I really do think that, probably top 5 for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted you guys to be able to see it. That's what was important to me about it.
One thing you guys were saying about like with CGI and specifically the train scene, one thing I actually found surprising with like my reaction of watching like the film was that I actually preferred and liked the fact that when that car got hit by the train, it didn't have like this massive sort of explosion to it. Yeah. Because like that is what like I would expect with, you know, everything. I mean, in The Hitman's Bodyguard, you see a car get hit by one bullet and explode in the middle of the road, right? Which, as fun as that is, and that was a really funny scene just because of how it was set up, like this car gets hit by a train, and there's like that level of like explosion type stuff to it, and that sort of like destruction that I would say arguably need in an action film. But the fact that there wasn't an explosion just made it feel real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because that doesn't happen. Like, you don't hit a gas tank and the entire engine explodes. But yeah, it did seem, not always. Sometimes it just gets a bullet in it. But it does make it a bit more real. I do get what you're saying.
Like I said, I think there's sort of a charm to those style of effects in an action film. And I mean, and some of them are bad. Like, let's be serious. It's not like we're saying that all action movies of our youth are better than, like, that would be madness. We had some real crap. But
I agree.
It's fair. This was not one of them. But I think
I agree.
I was just thinking about it. You were saying, like, you know, it doesn't really transition because, like, it doesn't really have a strong female lead. And I mean, I don't think we always need one. Like, I feel like we don't always need
somebody
a male
call
woman.
the cancel culture. Somebody call them.
Twitter.
No, cancel culture.
it's Screenfish. No one's listening.
Hello.
That's fair, actually.
I'm not saying that I'm against female leads, but I just feel like I'm pretty like liberal, like NDP-ish, like
you're
person
woke.
and equality.
You're woke.
I mean, I don't know, but I think that I get it, and I do stand up for a lot of stuff. But sometimes it's just like the girl doesn't always need to fall in love in a movie, you know, that kind of thing. Like, you don't always need a girl to rescue in another movie, or you don't always need a super strong, because you had a woman in that movie that was like the cop who actually brought Ryan Reynolds in to do his job. And then she's the one that found out that the guy was dirty, but there wasn't like this big focus on her, and she needs to have that highlight. Like, she did her job, she got things done, and yay, leave, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like we don't always need to have, I don't know. Like, we have Superman, do we need Supergirl just to make it equal?
No, but I think it, and I would actually.
But I get what you're saying based on the 90s like version of things. It was very male centered and male focused. And I think people have, maybe I'm living in a time now where I feel like I can say that because we have such strong female leads in other movies. You know, like
Twitter.
Tweet.
I'm live
Send your
streaming it
tweets
right now.
at Catherine Erskine at no.
I don't even use Twitter.
I don't know whether that makes you young or old, or just irrelevant. I
use the tickety talk.
I use that tickety talk.
I be on the Facebook and the YouTubes.
On the YouTubes.
But like, women don't need to be thrust to the forefront just so we can say like, oh, we have to give the women a voice, you know. That'd be like, I don't know, putting a man in the Golden Girls because we don't have a male voice in that. It's hard for me to explain, but I just, yeah, like I just feel like it was a great movie. We did have a strong female lead who didn't need to be in the blowy uppy part because she was taking care of things in the background.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like there needs to naturally, be strong female characters, but there doesn't need to be a strong female character just because she's a female character, because then that kind of, it devalues her. Like, you're only making her a lead or a strong lead because she's a female. But if it naturally comes up in the movie, then that's when it'll work better, and it'll be more natural, and it'll have more meaning behind it.
And I kind of agree. I feel like if you're looking at sort of like The Fugitive and The Hitman's Bodyguard side by side, like the way that they had like this, like, yes, they had like this strong female character in The Hitman's Bodyguard. I feel like if they were to try and put one in The Fugitive, it would feel very forced. Whereas in The Hitman's Bodyguard, it didn't feel forced. Like you sort of, you meet this character at the beginning, it's just sort of like, okay, she's here. This is her job. This is what she's doing. And it's just sort of accepted at that, right? But I feel like if they had tried to stick one in The Fugitive, it would have felt really forced. Where it
and they had them.
Yeah.
Yep,
they were just the doctors that helped out, right? Like these are the women that he went to, and the women who were educated doing their jobs and were just doing what they needed to do. They didn't need to come out and be,
But see, the point is not that. The point is, in a Harrison Ford film in the 90s, it was all about Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford would rewrite the scripts so that Harrison Ford could be Harrison Ford. Like, and you're actually right. In some ways, I actually think there was better representation of female characters in The Fugitive than Hitman's Bodyguard, because other than Selma Hayek, I don't think there's any other female characters that have any voice at all other than the police officer. And she ends up sort of being there for Reynolds' eye candy. There
was the woman who farted in the corner.
Yes, that's
true.
That was the best representation.
That was a real step forward for
Right?
Yeah.
When I saw that scene, I actually immediately thought that screamed cat, and I can't explain why. I can't explain why, but I was just kind of like, I could feel that being cat. I don't know why. Not the being trapped in a corner, just the farting out of being scared. The farting out of being scared, I feel could really be cat.
I have farted out of fear before.
So
you can add that. But in saying that, there are women heroes in like the 90s films, like Twister. She was huge, and she was the main person who solved a bunch of stuff. And also, what's her name from Jurassic Park?
Okay, but here's the thing that I would say. Sorry,
and Annie from Speed.
That's true.
Those cooking movies.
Although Keanu Reeves is still really the hero in that, but she does a lot. I would say in the 90s we see things shift.
Mm-hmm.
We see things shift from the 80s, where it was all boys club all the time.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is significant in the 90s, and this is one of the things that I think we'll see when we do get to Independence Day, we saw a shift from individuals or duos to groups. Independence Day was the first really interracial group film that I can remember, and that was Emmerich was the guy that was really behind those. A lot of those disaster films were about groups. Harrison Ford was from an era where it was all about the hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you see that a little bit in here. I mean, but you're absolutely right. I mean, there are women doctors, there are women on the team, and all of them have a role. And actually a lot there is a sense of equality, other than the fact that, again, Sam Gerard is still that top dog, and but it is interesting conversation. I think we saw a shift in the 90s, which is why I think it's really interesting. Like, and to me, Hitman's Bodyguard is that maybe that was one of the things I thought was very almost old school of it. It was just bad boys doing bad things. And even the fact that it's like, oh, we're in Amsterdam. Oh, we got to get a stripper in there. There she is. They drove past her window,
Yeah.
So there, in some ways, there was more objectification in that one than there was in the Fugitive. It wouldn't have fit story wise at all. Although his wife's character is really just there to die in the Fugitive.
Yeah.
And we watched that multiple times in that film. But
she was no Sarah Connors.
That is true. Sarah Connor was groundbreaking. The Terminator films.
T2.
That's true. T2 was the year.
She didn't need no man.
She didn't.
So wasn't her only purpose to give birth?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I said
Cat's like shh.
Hey, T2 was on our list. I think somebody had seen it, but T2 is. I mean, you can make that argument in the Terminator for sure, but in T2, she kicks it up a notch, man. Linda Hamilton is amazing in that movie. Anyway, okay, here we are. We've shown you the movies we. Oh yeah, we're on video.
I like that clap transition.
We've shown you the movies you've missed. You showed us the movies we missed. So now comes time for us to decide which movie wins head to head, The Fugitive versus Hitman's Bodyguard. Cast your votes head to head. Which one would you pick?
How are we voting?
How are we voting? You can speak.
Okay.
Hold your hand up, City of New York.
Personally, I'd say The Fugitive. So, yeah. A win for the geezers, I suppose.
Dang right. Daniel?
I'd give it to The Fugitive as well.
That sounded like it really hurt you to say that.
I had to think, like, if I'm just going off of like action, bang, pow, explosions, fire, then Hitman's, but for actual storyline, Fugitive. And I think I look towards storyline more.
All right, Jason.
I was gonna wait to be the tiebreaker and build suspense, but I guess that's not happening.
Watch. Catherine and I'll just both dump on The Fugitive, and then you know what's great. All right, we'll let Jason have his suspense. Kat, what are you picking?
I do like those action bang bang fires, as Daniel so poetically put it. But I think, standing the test of time, it's going to be Fugitive.
I'm going to go with The Fugitive too, but I will admit it was a lot closer than I expected. Like there is a fun factor to the Hitman's Bodyguard that is not in The Fugitive. Like it is just flat out silly, and I give it credit for that. But story for me always wins out. So the real here's your suspense, JT. Is it a clean sweep or no?
Oh, I think it is.
It is? Yes. All right. Why the Fugitive?
It has to be the story. Like the Hitman's Bodyguard wasn't really going anywhere. It's just like your goal is just bring this guy here, and that's the premise. And there's going to be a lot of action, so just enjoy the ride and let your brain just like take a seat back. And it definitely isn't going to be a movie that like 10, 20 years from now, people are going to be like, hey, let's podcast about this movie. And it's so great from my time.
Only crazy people would think about podcasting.
It'll be you three doing it with the next generation called Movies You Missed. And they'll be like, what's the Hitman's Bodyguard? Who's Ryan?
It's a movie about people with really good eyesight.
Yeah, their contact lenses are like on point. It's pretty great.
So, like, but then for The Fugitive, like that's a movie that you can watch. I feel like anytime, even like 100 years from now, you could still watch and be like, "Oh, that's a good story." But then, if you show the Hitman's Bodyguard, it's just like, oh, yeah, it's just a lot of punching. So, yeah, Fugitive's better, I think.
All right. Well,
Well,
that's fair.
St-
We
Steve's gonna cry himself to sleep with happiness because he's converted you.
so happy, so happy. Round 1 goes to the geezers. I am impressed. So
Coming up next.
our next
To be fair, I didn't even like before even watching the Hitman's Bodyguard, I knew I wasn't gonna like it.
Why?
I saw the trailer. I'm like, oh, this is punching. Oh, like, why watch this? And it was also back when it was like in theaters, so it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I have to pay money for this if I want to see this. It's just like, oh, it's not worth it.
outstanding. Loving this. All right, next week I think we should excuse me. Oh dear. Next week we are back with our next episode, and we will be talking about, well, based on this list, our next one is horror. Do we want to do
Yes.
Catherine wants to do horror next. So
Horror / thriller. There's a
horror
difference.
/ thriller. So you will find out our picks next week when you tune in, but we will be back to talk about throw a classic horror versus an updated one together, and see where the chips shall fall. So thank you.
No spoilers, but Human Centipede.
Yeah, no, no, dear
I'll
Lord,
show up
no.
with an empty stomach.
There's like 3 sequels.
There's so many sequels.
There's like I think
Human millipede, human butterfly.
I think the third one, there's like 100 people.
Oh my gosh, 100 people.
Is that
Honestly,
what
like I've never been able to watch those kind of horror movies.
Is that what
I saw the
movie
first
Cocoon
one?
is about?
Oh, I don't know. I saw the first one. It was just really gross.
Human
Mhm.
chrysalis.
It is not the human centipede. For those,
Is it the human chrysalis?
chrysalis? So everyone, thank you so much. We're looking forward to doing this again. This was fun, and it doesn't matter which movie you picked. What matters is that it matters to you. So, bye.
Bye.